If you've just joined us, you're watching Newslink on DSTV channel 403. Now, ANC members say I do today in Parliament. ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile, Second Deputy Secretary General Marupini Ramokgopa, former KwaZulu-Natal Premier Sihle Zikalala, and former Gauteng Economic Development MEC Pakstawu are the additions to the ANC's caucus. Deputy President David Mabuza has resigned, but the presidency has asked him to stay on. Let's discuss this now further with political analyst Lukhanyo Vangqa. Mr. Vangqa, good morning and thank you very much for your time as always. Now, perhaps to start with just the developments from this weekend. That particular video that surfaced, some say the remarks by David Mabuza are more of a confirmation of what has been expected, while others are attempting to read a bit more into it. And it is politics after all, so not everything is always as it seems. What are your views of that video?
Good morning, Vundo. Thank you for inviting me. I don't think there's anything to read into it. There's been reporting, and just above the speculation, his office had indicated that he had submitted his resignation to the president. So him sharing that information with his followers in Mpumalanga is only but a continuance of that confirmation that his office had already given to the public and to the media, that indeed he has submitted either his resignation or his intention to resign the office of Deputy President.
Now, we understand that the President has asked him to stay on for a little bit, we suppose, for some sort of a smooth transition. Your take on that, and perhaps some trying to link the video to him sort of adding his sentiments to the conversation, that if perhaps you guys thought, I'm just looking to stay on for no reason, I want it known that I have a desire to relinquish power and hand it over.
Yes, and I don't know if he would be in any position to want to hold on to that to the deputy presidency, because the ANC, through its Secretary General, have indicated that they would want to create that synergy between the leadership positions of the ANC with that of government, and therefore, as a natural consequence of that, Paul Mashatile would then take over the deputy presidents of the country. So that was what was expected. I think if there's anything that Didi was doing is to show up the president and the fact that he's not prepared for this moment. And I don't know why he wouldn't be prepared for this moment, because I think everyone knew that David Mabuza was not coming back as deputy president of the ANC as far back as October, when Mpumalanga decided not to nominate him for deputy president and rather endorse Ronald Lamula. So for the past 3 or 4 months, I think the president should have known that his deputy president would not be in that position for long, and should have taken the necessary steps to prepare for his timely exit for when that eventuality comes, but he didn't do so. And in terms of strategy and leadership, then you can see that there's been a failure to adequately prepare for transition in government by the president. And this is something similar that we saw at DPSA, where that ministry has been without a minister for the past about 10 months now. And I don't think the president didn't know that former Minister Ayanda Hlodlo was on her way out, and still in that instance failed to prepare for that exit and to create that smooth transition. So that's what maybe David Mabuza is doing here.
Let's now go to the additions to Parliament, those that will be sworn in today. Just on Paul Mashatile, it's a very significant moment for him and his political career, from his early years at SASCO to the Alexandra Youth Congress, then his UDF days. You know, I'm tempted to say he's an old hand, but I know the ANC would prefer a tried and tested hand. What are your views on just his political progression?
So this is a triumphant return to Parliament for Paul Mashatile. If you remember, the last time that he was there, he held the lowly position of Minister of Arts and Culture.
Yes.
And even in that position, he was eventually,
removed and
out
taken to Parliament.
And he became an ordinary MP, which is untenable for a person of his ambition, and that's why he then left to go work the ground in Gauteng, and where he installed himself as a MEC for housing, and there plotted his political comeback. And this is that comeback now, where he's returning to Parliament not as an ordinary member but as a deputy president in waiting, and he's going to come and occupy the second most important position in this country. So it's quite a triumphant return for Paul Mashatile when he was removed 10 years ago from Parliament.
quite a political comeback, because even in Gauteng, I mean, he was elected 3 times as chairperson, and that's when he moved only to become Treasurer General. So certainly one would say that the province of Gauteng have been the biggest winners, as was stated, of that national conference that just concluded of the ANC.
Yes, that would be correct. You saw that Limpopo and Gauteng got an outsized share of the leadership positions within the top 7 itself, but also in the NEC. So Gauteng has been the biggest winner, and we don't know whether they will be able to parlay that into a structured, sort of political base for the future. David Mabuza going out, if you remember, Mfundo, he's the last of the so-called Premier League. So that now marks the end of the Premier League. And there's now another power base that then must rise to replace that Premier League that existed. And maybe Gauteng would be the key ingredient in establishing that new power base that would now then seek to dominate the politics of the ANC for the next 10 to 20 years.
Now, there's a general assumption that those that are being sworn in will in fact make it into the president's cabinet. But when we talk about this imminent reshuffle that everybody keeps talking of, what exactly is needed now if the ANC is to win the elections in 2024? Because some are saying that there needs to be a recognition of the moment, just appreciation of this moment, that you cannot just reshuffle for the sake of reshuffling, where certain members of your political party have now made it onto the NEC and now must be taken to cabinet. It has to be individuals that are fit for purpose at this point, not rewarding mobilizers or rewarding those that have supported any other leader's ascension.
It would be outside of the character of the ANC to behave in the manner that you are describing, Fundo. I think one of the things that we can foresee is that Marupene, who is currently the presidential advisor on international affairs, might be coming in to take up a role in DECO, with Minister Naledi Pandor a bit more advanced in age for that grueling traveling schedule that comes with being at DECO. So she might be shifted to somewhere else. And Marupene was much younger, and the political star is also rising. The ANC would come in and take over as the Minister of International Relations. And maybe Pakstaw as well might be coming in, where he was a deputy at COCTA, to come in and take a full ministerial position with NTZ shifted out of COCTA. And you put someone who's considered much younger and more energetic to sort out our municipalities, like Pakstaw. So something of that nature. I think what you will see here is more of a prioritization of a younger generation or a newer generation, not really a prioritization of skills, expertise, and competencies. It will just be a prioritization of the younger generation who do support the president and will be able to back him up when he needs them to, both in the NEC and also in cabinet.
I want to take you back to Marupeni. Now, in this instance, there are those in quarters that are a bit confused. Just share your views about her being sworn in, because at some point, the DSG position, when they said they needed 2 of them, it was because they were of the view that the task of running the secretariat was a very big one and needed few more hands. So in this instance, does it make sense to you? Is there something perhaps that some fail to appreciate?
Mfundo, when they spoke at just post-Nasrec about what are the responsibilities of the second DSG going to be, they said that is something that they still need to discuss. So how do you create a position when you haven't first ascertained what the need is for that position and what it is, the tasks that are needed and that the current DSG is unable to fulfill? So you could see from there that this position of a second DSG, I don't know where the need came from and how they were able to assess that there's that need. And the fact that now this person who is supposed to come in and strengthen that office is now being taken out to Parliament and is going to have a full-time position either in cabinet or in Parliament. And that then tells you that there's, sort of a confusion in the way that they were planning around this second DSG position, and they might be shifting as they go along, getting as what you call a pay-as-you-go sort of leadership decisions as things unfold. And there's no strategic direction that both the ANC and the country is going.
And then to just your point now that skills would not necessarily be a priority or the biggest priority in this instance, that now what you're seeing is a prioritization of the younger cohort in the African National Congress. Would that be the right way to go? Because even the young, who are in fact capable, would feel somewhat insulted that, if anything, we're there to tick the boxes, that this is a quotas thing, it has nothing to do with merit or skill.
I wouldn't think that's the best way to do it, Vundo. But however, I must say that the younger people being there is absolutely crucial, and it's imperative that they are there. That secondly, over and above that, they must be skilled, they must be competent, is also something that the country needs at this very moment, because we have been languishing in a crisis of both leadership and a crisis of vision for this country. And without the people that have the necessary abilities to strategize, to provide, leadership with the skills and expertise that they have so that they can move this country forward, then we're just going to be in this crisis that we're in for a bit longer. And this country cannot take that. President Mbeki said we're on the precipice of our own Arab Spring. And I don't think that this is where we'd want this to degenerate to. We need young people that are skilled, that have expertise, that can be able to move the needle and take the country forward. That we need young people is absolutely undisputable.
That particular statement, a very concerning one when we speak of what Mbeki said about being on the precipice of an Arab Spring. I mean, we saw that the past weekend, the Lekgotla opted or resolved that the security cluster needs to be tightened, which to me, even on its own, stated that there is some sort of an appreciation again of this moment, that you have great discontent across the board. Anything is possible right now with young people, be it on the unemployment issue, be it on the load shedding. So what kind of a role, or what should Paul Mashatile bring? In fact, if he becomes the deputy president of the country, what should he bring to that role of deputy president? Given that we've seen on many occasions, particularly with David Mabuza, many were saying that at best, he was somebody that didn't hog the spotlight. He allowed the president to be the president and lead. But what should a deputy president actually bring to that role if we are said to be on the precipice of some sort of an Arab Springs?
I think he needs to bring less commitment to his own personal ambition and more commitment to the priorities of the country. He needs to be that fire cooker under the president's legs and feet that are going to say, we need to get a move on, we need to move forward, we need to urge with more urgency. This thing of the president not planning properly or him taking the long game or the long view, we don't have time for that. We need a deputy president that's going to spur him on, and a deputy president that is going to actually, sort of give him direction when he loses direction. And that's what we need. We need someone that is going to be able to come in and be a doer rather than a talker. And that's what we've had in the president, a talker. And maybe in Paul Mashatile, we can have a deputy president that's much more of a doer, and that's what this country needs.